recording for the webinar from this morning. We experienced some extreme technical difficulties in doing that webinar, so I apologize to all of you for the incredible inconvenience of doing that. I'll be working with the technical team at Click Webinar after the fact to be sure that we don't have these issues going forward. So thank you all for your patience. So we're going to cover a couple aspects about WordPress, and these are the initial steps one needs to set up a WordPress website. I've been working with WordPress for many, many years and have set up dozens of clients' sites, and am pretty much a fanatic. I would say a fanatic, but I'm really sold on using WordPress. I'm from the old days where I learned HTML and CSS, which was wonderful and is wonderful to know. Set up a website years ago took a whole lot longer than what it does now. In fact, in this short period of time as we're on this webinar, we will have a WordPress website up and running. It will not be designed. It will not have content. But we'll take it to that point where the next step is to finishing up the design and adding our own content. So to get to that point, there's several steps that need to be done initially. And as I've worked with clients over the years, these initial steps is probably the most unknown to them. I'm often asked, what do I need to get a website? Well, we'll answer that question in this webinar and actually show you how to do those steps. So those steps are, you start with choosing a domain name. That is your website address. Then you'll find a web host that will actually store your website on a server somewhere that makes it available around the world. And then we'll also go on how to actually install WordPress onto your site. So then it's ready to design and add content. Let's start with choosing a domain name. As I mentioned, this is your website address. Usually it's either your name or your company name.com. There's also other extensions you can use as I've noted on this slide. I usually recommend sticking with .com just because people are more familiar with that. But you're welcome to explore other extensions if the actual domain name you want isn't available and you really, really, really want that domain name. There's other options to think about for your domain name. If the one you want isn't available, you can incorporate an INC after your business name, or CO for company, or maybe even the initials of your state. You may have to be a little bit creative to get the domain name, to get your domain name and have it be available. You might have several things in mind, or several domain names in mind that would work before you actually go exploring for your domain name. And I'll actually go through the steps of finding a domain name. We're going to incorporate that step into this next step, which is finding a web host. And that's because many web hosts out there, once you sign up for a web host, these are the people that will be storing your website on their server. Their services often include a free domain name. So where do you find a web host? You could do a Google search or do a search, find a recommended web host. If you do that, I would put in find recommended WordPress web host. The one I highly recommend is SiteGround. I've used a number of them through the years. Some vary with their supports, whether it's good or not so good, their availability, whether it's by phone or through email, etc. SiteGround does really well in providing support. When I've hosted sites with them, it's fairly secure. They also include what we call some managed options. So they're taking care of some of the necessary things for you behind the scenes, like backing up your website, although I still recommend doing it yourself. And they do some other things too. They also update your WordPress as new versions of WordPress come out. When you go looking for a web host, you'll run across some terminology. I should have included this on the slide. Let me first talk about what we call self-hosted option versus the other option is WordPress.com. We'll jump to WordPress.com shortly. If you're a real business and you want to add functionality to your website, maybe that includes coming up with an email list to send out newsletters, maybe it includes e-commerce, Maybe it includes adding contact forms and different kinds of forms to your website so visitors can type in information that you might find useful to serve them, etc., etc. I'd recommend going with a self-hosted WordPress website. That means WordPress is installed on your website for your purposes. That's the self-hosted option. The other option is if you're just beginning with WordPress and you're not sure about all of this, not even sure about setting up your own website, maybe you want to experiment a bit, I recommend WordPresscom. Let's jump to WordPress.com. I'm going to talk you through that option briefly just so you're familiar with it. WordPress.com is a great option, as I mentioned, just to explore WordPress a bit and setting up your own website. They do these beginning steps pretty much for you, so you can just create your account within a few minutes and then start playing with your website. I actually used WordPress.com when I first started using WordPress, which was a number of years ago, quite a few years ago. And I believe I did set up some clients, nonprofit organizations to use WordPress.com, and I believe they're still being used up to this point. And they make it very easy. We're not going to go through all of these steps. But just to show you quickly how easy it is, it's going to ask you what kind of site do you want. Kind of drill down there, be a little more specific. It's going to ask you what kind of layout do you want. You can change all of these after the fact. You can choose what you want your website to look like now. You may choose one of these options, and your site may not look anything like it. It really depends on if they provide some content for you. So we'll try this. We'll see how that one turns out. Actually, I'm not going to go through this entire process because I already have a site here and it's not going to let me do what I want to. This is where you enter a domain. Now, if you go with WordPress.com, all that work we did up front in choosing a domain name, kind of irrelevant. If you go with the free domain with WordPress.com, it's going to be your domain. We'll stick with ABC Company. ABC Company. It's going to go out there and tell me what's available. Now, by default, when you use WordPress.com, it's going to put your domain in front of .wordpress.com. Now, obviously, abccompany.wordpress.com is not available, but it comes up with another option, and this will be a freebie option. If you want to have your own domain name or go with something else, we'll have to pay for that, which is indicated here. I'm not going to complete this step. I encourage you, if you're interested in this, just go ahead and do it because you can't break anything. You'll choose a domain, select, and it will give you an account with a username and password, and you'll use that to get into your website at WordPress.com. Let's talk more about the other option, which is a self-hosted option, which if you're a business or want to have complete control over your website, you want to go with this option. If you use WordPress.com, you're limited into the functionality of your website. You're limited into the WordPress themes, which is the look and feel of your website. And there's other options that you're more limited with what you can do at WordPress.com. But again, it's a great way to get started and get familiar. Let me jump back to my slide here. If you go with the self-hosted option, you'll also hear some other terms being thrown around there, and that is shared hosting versus managed hosting. For 99% of you, shared hosting will serve your needs and will be more than what you need. Shared hosting simply means your website is stored on a server that is shared with other websites. Now, if you're a bigger business or if you need really tight security, you may want to choose another type of hosting and have your own IP address, but for most of you, shared hosting will be sufficient. The other option is what we call managed hosting. For WordPress websites, that simply means the host takes care of things for you behind the scenes, updating your plugins, updating your WordPress, adds a level of security, etc., but it does come with a higher cost. Shared hosting can be anywhere from $5 to $15 a month. Managed hosting is going to be $3 plus per month. Once you find a web host, you'll go to their site and create an account. And we're going to do this in just a sec. They're going to help you find a domain name. With your web host account, you'll be assigned a username and password.
We're going to go ahead and actually do this with SiteGround, which is the recommended web host that I recommend you go with. I'm at siteground.com. Let's go to their WordPress services. Now I'm going to select WordPress hosting. I already have an account with them, so I'm not going to go through the entire steps. So I'm going to go through each step enough so you'll know what it looks like from your end. If I scroll down, we see WordPress hosting. Usually this is $3.95 a month, and it may be $3.95 a month by the time you look at this recorded webinar, which is still a great price. And the startup option will meet 99% of your needs to get started. I'm going to go ahead and click on Get Started. And again, they make this very easy for you. The next step is actually to find a domain name, because a domain name is included in this web hosting account. So let's see if we can get abccompany.com. You can change your extension here if you like. I'm going to stick with .com. Notice all those options down there. Proceed. Now it's going to go out there and look and see if this domain name is available. They say it does not. You have these other options if you want to go with that. So either you select one of these, or you go back up here. Actually, we can go back a screen. Whoops, I could have done it from that screen. Let me go forward again. Wow, I can't type this morning. We'll get the same results we did before, and it's going to say it's taken. But you can go back here and try something else if you don't like any of these options. And once you get to, once you find a domain name, you'll click on Proceed. Let me add something in here just so we can go forward. I typed in another name and then hit Enter. Now obviously this one is available because it went to the next screen. We're on step 3, Review and Complete. It's available. This is where you plug in your information, your payment, your purchase information. And when you get down here for SiteGround, and again your web host may be slightly different. By default these are turned on, so you notice your price is more than what you may have expected at $3.95 per month or $2.95 per month. Turn these off and I'll bring the price down to what you expect. Again, right now it's $2.95, usually it's $3.95, which is still a terrific deal. If you want these options, feel free to go ahead and leave those turned on. Click on Pay Now, and then you're set up. This will be sure you mark down up here where you set your password information. Be sure you write that down somewhere. They're going to provide you with a username and then your password to get into your SiteGround account or into your web host account. This is true for any other web host that you might go with. Okay, I'm going to actually sign into my accounts and then show you what the next step is. So you've done that step, and you now have your web host account. You'll come back to SiteGround and sign in. If I remember this. This is what and for SiteGround, this is what your account will look like when you first come into it. Now, if you're at another web host, it may look slightly different. The key is to get to your domain name that you just set up inside your web hosting account. For SiteGround, I'm going to click on the tab My Accounts. And I'd set this up for this domain name. To install WordPress, you want to get to the cPanel. The cPanel is used by many web hosts out there. And my guess for any web host you go with, you'll be using a cPanel called Control Panel. You'll click on that, and that takes you kind of behind the scenes. Now, if your web host is using something different, they will let you know, and you'll click on that. This takes you to behind the scenes of your WordPress website, where you can set up all kinds of options, which are probably way more technical than what we need to discuss here. The only thing you're concerned about is getting to this control panel, or to wherever it is on your web host, and finding this WordPress option. If you're going with the WordPress web host, they will provide this for you. Actually, with SiteGround, they may do this step for you, just be aware of that. But it's easy to do it yourself. For most web hosts for WordPress, they'll provide what we call a one-click installer for WordPress, making it very, very easy to install WordPress on your website. And SiteGround Control Panel, they actually have a section called Auto Installers. You'll see the same option under WordPress Tools sitting over here. And I believe that's it. Other control panels might have a section called SelfHosted. I can't say that word. I'll show you what that word is in just a sec. And under there you'll find the WordPress icon. So you're looking for the WordPress installer, or the WordPress icon to install WordPress on your site. I'm going to go ahead and click on this option. It's going to take me to another page where I now can just simply click on the word install, which is right here, and it will install WordPress for me. This is the word I was trying to say earlier, SelfHosted, or something like that. Now that we have this selected, here's my one click to install WordPress. The next option, this is true pretty much across the board for one-click installs. You'll select your protocol, which will either be HTTP or HTTPS. You'll select your domain name, which will come up by default. I'm actually going to put this particular one on a subdomain that I use for training types of purposes. But for you, it will be your domain name. Your site name, so this will be your name, or it will be your company name, your organization's name. A site description, just a brief, can be a byline. It can be a brief thing about what your company is about. The next section is your admin accounts. This is very, very important. Make sure you copy and paste these so you have them somewhere, because you will need this information as soon as you're done installing it. You will need this information to get into WordPress. That is a crazy password. By the way, I'm going to delete this after the fact, so I don't mind you seeing the admin username and password at this point. And put in your email address for admin email. So if there's any issues, you will receive those emails from your web host. Leave everything else as is. You do have a theme that you can install. I'm going to leave that to none for now. There is an advanced option, and this is true pretty much across the board. You can set up your database name. I'm going to leave SiteGround to determine that, so I don't want to get that technical. I'm going to click on the option to install. You will go through the necessary steps to set up WordPress on your website, which is absolutely wonderful. I actually still do this process manually, and because I've done it so often, it doesn't take that long, but initially it would take several hours for me to do this. But now with this one-click install, you can do it very, very quick. So it tells us, ta-da, congratulations, you have WordPress installed on your site. Let's go to the site and see what we see now that we have it installed. There it is. So WordPress comes with some information inside it, so you see some content here already. And this is where we would go sign into WordPress and change what this says, so we would display information about our company or about our work, etc. Then you're also given the administrative URL, and this is where you go in to sign into WordPress. I'm going to go ahead and do this just to give you a glimpse of what WordPress looks like. So here now we're in the WordPress sign in. This I'm going to put in the admin username and password that that I received when they set up WordPress for me. And this is some kind of crazy password. Let's see if I can get it right. I should probably just copy and paste, which is what I will do. And now we're into WordPress, and we'll cover a lot more about WordPress itself in future webinars. But my goal this week was just to get you through the initial steps of getting WordPress on your website. So selecting your domain name, and then setting up an account at a web host, reserving your domain name, and getting WordPress installed. But just to give you a glimpse, okay, this is what our first page looks like right now. We're going to change what this looks like. And we'll talk a lot more about this at a later point. And we'll talk through about all these steps that I'm doing, but I'm going to show you how quickly you can change your website. So I made a quick change here on some information that's available to me when I'm signed into WordPress behind the scenes. I saved it. I'm going to go back to my website. I'm going to refresh my website by clicking the little refresh icon. And there's our change right there. All right, so that's a little bit more than what I want to cover today, but that was my goal, to get through those steps. Let's go back to my slides here. So we did all that. We installed WordPress using the one-click install. Now again, if you're using WordPress.com, it will take care of all this for you. If you're doing what we call a self-hosted website, which I recommend for, especially for businesses, or if you want to add functionality to your WordPress site down the road, use SiteGround or something similar. And so we went through all those steps in installing WordPress. So we did it. We chose our domain name. We found a web host. We installed WordPress. In future webinars, we'll cover a lot more about WordPress itself. If you want more information, the steps that we covered today, as well as the steps we'll be covering in future webinars, I'm sorry, I don't want to actually go to the next screen. You can download a free WordPress guide at onwardstudios.com/WP guide. That will send you this free ebook or PDF. I think it's 44 pages, so it contains a lot of content about these steps and much, much more. And included in that, if you download that, you'll also be signed up to get an email mini course. I believe it's 8 emails over a period of time, adding to the information that's in the book, as well as taking you through the steps. And if you sign up for that and you have any questions about anything you see in the guide or in the emails, please, please, please reply to those emails, and I will see your questions or your comments. One of the issues with doing printed something like that is things can get outdated. So if you see something that doesn't line up with what you're seeing on your screen as you go through the steps, don't hesitate to let me know, and I will certainly update the guide and or the emails as needed. Other ways to get a hold of me, my site is onwardstudios.com. You can catch me on Facebook or Twitter. And then you also check out my YouTube channel, which has lots of videos on it. They are somewhat dated at this point, but I will be putting many more videos out there over the next few weeks and months. All right, that concludes this webinar. Again, thank you everybody for being patient with us this morning. I apologize for the technical difficulties we experienced. I believe this one here went pretty smooth, so hopefully it will run much more smoothly in the future. I hope to see you again next Friday as we talk more about WordPress.